Good morning, I'm Dan Clark, and we're doing an oral history with Mr. C.L. Tidwell for the Etowah Valley Historical Society today. We're going to start back in 1940 and come up to today, which is January the 10th, 2021. Good morning, C.L.
Morning.
Well, let's start in the beginning. Do you remember that day you were born?
I don't remember that. It was about a week later.
You was about a week later? You were born in 1940s.
Yeah, on Irwin Street in Cartersville.
1940, or was it later?
40.
1940? Your parents, what did your mom and dad do?
My
And
mother
who were they? What were their names?
Herschel Tidwell and Ethel Bell. Daddy worked at Easy Mill all the time that I can remember. Mother, she was just a housewife.
Yeah. And so you hadn't been out a farmer all your life?
No, we moved out here when I was 9-year-old.
Yeah.
But we moved out here and didn't have any utilities, no everything, no electricity, just dirt roads. We hauled water, and it was tough moving and leaving all that in town.
So that would have been 49 when y'all moved out here?
Yeah.
So how big did they farm, or you just?
We tried to farm a little. This old rough land is hard to do, but it kept us busy. That was Daddy's intention. He didn't ask you if you could do anything.
So
he said when you get done with that.
How big was the farm?
Well, at that time it was about 80 acres. He paid $25 an acre for it.
Big money in the 40s,
Yeah, the real
wasn't it?
estate people couldn't make a living on that.
Yeah, 6% commission wouldn't go far on that,
It
would
wouldn't
it?
go far, no.
Well, so your dad worked most of his life at EZ?
Yeah.
That was one of the few industries in Cartersville then, or
It and Goodyear Mill.
it in Goodyear?
He worked at run an ice route when I was born. He had his own truck and delivered ice.
You know, there's probably a lot of people going to see this that don't have a clue what that is. I remember the ice house next to Smith Gin over in town. Did he go there and pick up
He went
ice?
there and picked it up in 100-pound blocks, and
Yeah.
then he cut it up in 25 and 50s or whatever anybody wanted.
Now, what would people do with that?
They had an ice box they put it in. It wasn't electric, but they put it in it anyway.
We call those refrigerators now.
Yeah. Cold storage.
But that was the only way to keep stuff cold then.
It sure was. When we moved out here, there was a rolling store come by on a school bus, and I could hear it cross Hardin Bridge down here. The planks rattling. Boy, I'd get my nickel and run down there to catch it.
What'd you buy?
I got a Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola for
I
a
had a
nickel.
dime. I got a pack of peanuts.
Did you ever eat any BB bats? You could get.
Few.
I think you could get 3 of those for a nickel. So.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
So what is? We're talking about things in the 40s. So what was unique about that time? You mentioned the people would take out and bring you ice for your ice box. Had rolling stores. What did they sell off of those?
Oh, about anything, line of pork and beans, vein of sausage, and soda crackers. Now, they had a little stuff. The main thing they had was a chicken coop on the back.
Mm-hmm.
They carried chickens in. You could buy a live chicken, or he'd buy it from you. It was a source of getting things out in the community.
Well, did you do any trading then? You trade chickens for eggs?
I wasn't in the trading business. You know, my kids call me Mr. Haney now, but I wasn't that good at it then. But Daddy bought Mother a gasoline-operated washing machine, one of those agitator.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, she was tickled actually cleaning for all of us. But then he came home one Saturday and he had a battery-operated radio.
Right.
He said, now we can listen to the Grand Ole Opry on the night, in fact.
Saturday night.
So it come time, and he said, now let me tell you before I turn it on, they can't but 2 listen at it at one time, it'll run the battery down.
Oh.
Anyway, we had.
Now, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 5 brothers. 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
And their names?
3 brothers. They was Edna, my half sister, and then there was Buddy, the oldest. Richard was second. Catherine was third, I was fourth, and then Jackie's fifth. I'm the oldest one in the family left.
Yeah. Well, did they all, any of those work on the farm, or did they all have other professions?
They had other things. They'd work out here. We cut a lot of wood and cleaned up land, just anything, stay busy.
Now, where was the house out here? Was that you moved into? Does it still exist?
Yes, up on the hill. I rent it out now. Well, Daddy built a newer one than what we moved. One we moved in didn't have any ceiling or anything in it.
Yeah.
And we just had a fireplace for heat, which, you burn on one side and freeze on the other.
You had a well for water and?
No, we didn't. We had a cistern.
Oh, did you?
We only had water in it when it rained. It come off the roof.
No well, huh?
No well. We finally got one, and
that was for wells were for wealthy people.
Yeah, they're like white houses.
But you did have the old pull chain lights.
Yeah, one in every room.
One in every room.
Yeah. But Daddy couldn't get electricity, and somebody told him to go to the Public Service Commission. And he did, and they come out here and said, well, we'll put it in for $500 and y'all cut the right of way, which was over half a mile through these woods. Well, glad to do that. So got it done and then got a well. And when I got 16, I rounded up some old used stuff and put a bathroom in the house, and it worked. So that's where I wound up in the plumbing business.
So out of necessity for putting in a bathroom, you become a plumber?
Yeah, and put in the septic tank with pick and shovel. Done a lot of septic tanks back then with pick and shovel. But we just advanced from that. Seemed like everything started falling in place,
Yeah.
My sister and I, we walked a mile and a quarter every morning to catch school bus. Mile and a quarter home in the evening, Rain, shine, sleet, or snow.
When you were in school, all the roads out this area were still just dirt roads.
Oh, yeah. My granddad and I would walk to town on Saturday morning, 7 miles, and we'd walk all the way and never get a ride. But now he was going to town on Saturday morning.
And that sounds a little unusual now, but back in that time, it wasn't unusual at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean,
you either had to walk, maybe hitchhike. If you were going to Atlanta somewhere, you catch a train. You ever catch a train in town? And
never did ride a train till we went to Canada. We rode the train.
So
Post rode 4 days, but I got off in 2. I couldn't stand no more.
So where did you go to school?
Cassville. They had Army barracks too. Well, I went 3 years in Carville at Douglas Street. But we moved out here and went to Cassville, and they had old Army barracks with a cold heater.
Yeah.
No fan. It wasn't easy, but we paid attention.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated. When I was 16, that's when I decided I was going in business going to be on my own.
Yeah.
Daddy tried to get me to go to school, and I said, I don't want to go to school. He said, well, you going to work? I said, yeah, you're right, I am.
Well, there was, 11 grades then?
No, that's 12.
Was it 12?
12.
Now, in the 40s, of course, that was, you were quite young, but World War II and then the early 50s, Korea, you were too young to be involved in the war. Do you remember anything about what was going on in Cartersville during that time, World War II and after, or were you too young then?
Too young, I reckon, to remember any of that kind of stuff. I know when I married, I got called to go to the Army, be examined, and they passed me up, and I was digging the footing for a new house over where I did live. And when I got out, when I got back home, I continued, and then in 2 weeks they called me and I went back down there, and they turned me down.
Now, what year was that? Do you remember?
I was 60, 61, something
60.
like that. But I couldn't plumb in the county. I could plumb out in the county without a license. But then they sold Goodyear Village, and they sold all those houses,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a outside toilet that was freeze-proof in a woodshed. So I put about 43 houses over. I done the plumbing on in the city, but you had to have a license.
Yeah, when all those houses were built originally, they had no indoor
Didn't have any.
Bass, didn't
No.
Yeah.
So when they sold them, I had to have license, and the test was $100 if you passed. And I really think they helped me out some on it because I was young, the city. And anyway, I run over to the bank and I said, I need to borrow $100. And they said, son, we can't loan you no money. So I got home and I said, Daddy, I need you to sign a note with me for $100 to get my plumbing license. He never did want me in the plumbing business.
Yeah.
And he said, let's get something straight. I don't sign any notes or any bonds. So I knew I better stay out of jail. Because he meant business.
He wasn't going to get in debt either way, was he?
He wasn't taking no chances. But I had a good Christian daddy. He was a good person. I never did hold it against him.
No.
Got him on my own. That made me feel better.
Well, it might have kept you out of trouble.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah.
Some trouble. You got into enough, I'm sure. What year did you and Doris get married?
61.
So, how long had you been plumbing then?
Ever since I was 16.
So,
Took me a while just pick up a little here and a little there, Finally got.
so how old were you when y'all married?
I was 21, she was 20.
So you were an old man then.
Yeah, huge, yeah.
Wait till you get 21 in the 60s, you were old.
Yeah, you're right. But she was the best one you could ever find. Didn't get no better.
Beautiful lady.
She was a good one too. She lived one house between her and my brother up where we moved from. My brother got that house, and I'd see her every once in a while. She'd see me, and then she moved away. Well, I bought an old truck from her daddy for $25 and called Nellie Bell. So two old bachelors run a store up the road here, and I drove up there one day and backed up in the driveway and got out and started up to the porch. Edward Martin, Wayne Martin's daddy, was sitting on the porch. He said, son, did anybody get hurt in that wreck? It just killed me, But anyhow, I didn't see her for a while, and I went down to see her daddy about something one Sunday, I believe, and I seen her, and I couldn't believe how much change it was. And I said, that's going to be my wife one way or other.
Well, you mean,
and it was.
You mean she already knew you and she still married
you?
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty good.
She moved to Ackworth and hadn't heard a lot about me, I guess.
Oh, and then, of course, y'all had 2 children.
Yeah.
Tell me about them.
Well, we had Carla, and was the only one we really was going to have, and she got to crying for her baby brother, and so 9 years later, Michael come along, and they turned out to be good kids.
They did?
But I believed in, the rule of don't spare the rod.
My mother always said you could work on one end and help the other. Is that?
That's right. That's right. But they was good. I never did have no trouble out of them.
Now, do they both work in the business with you now?
They do now. They sure do. Yeah.
It's
We get along good now. We used to didn't, but they've come a long way. I give a little too.
Oh, okay, you do. Well, tell me about. Let's go back. Let's tell me about Tidwell Plumbing. When did you actually start that company?
I really incorporated, and when I was 19, got licensed. And
That's a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And then now.
I probably got the oldest plumbing license in Carville.
And then after that, you started the precast business.
Yeah, I started it in about 54. I mean 84. I don't know why I said 50. Yeah, 84.
In '84.
Yeah, I had a brother that's in business with me, and he got killed in a truck accident. And
Yeah.
from that, I just kept it going, and then went into the septic tank. But you couldn't get tanks hardly. They was selling them fast in one operation. And then Michael got out of college, and he jumped on it with the meter vault business and took it a long way. Done real good with it. I didn't want to say that and him listening, but he done a good job.
Well, did you ever want to have any other kind of business or do any other kind of job, or are you satisfied this is where you belong?
I never did have no desires for a job. When I was 16, my brother was working for Ted Duncan. He called out here and said, do you want to work this afternoon? Said, we need somebody. And I went up there, and They was putting 12-foot tin through through a 10-foot door with a forklift, and they couldn't none of them do no good with it. And I was used to equipment, I'd twist it, and Ted said, "You just come in regular." So I went in regular, and he sent us off up in the mountains with a load of produce groceries and about 2 tons of sugar for liquor makers. And we didn't get back in that night till about 9:30 and 10 o'clock, and the stores closed, and we didn't get unloaded. And he cussed the old boy with the driver something awful. So that day at lunch, I said, "Mr. Duncan, I'm working you out a week's notice." He said, "You can't quit." I said, "You wait a week and then see if I don't." So he wanted Miss Eberhardt to fix out my dismissal papers, and I went in there, and she said, "How come you quit and sell?" I said, "I'm not working." He's sitting over. I said, "I'm not working. The man cusses you." She said, "Mr. Duncan, why you won't put on these papers?" He said, "GD, you heard what he said." It has the end of that. But I learned then I didn't want no public works. I just didn't like that part of public works. Of course, it ain't all that way,
Well, what's the biggest changes you've seen? Let's just start with the plumbing business. What's the biggest changes you've seen over all the years you've been in the business?
Well, back when I started, we did it with cast iron, lead and oakum, and then we threaded galvanized pipe. Done most all the digging by hand, but when they went to PVC, it was a hard transition, I didn't think it'd work, but it's the greatest thing ever happened to plumbing business. It's much slicker, better material. And I had an old guy that was plumbing, out of Florida, was plumbing a hospital over there. It's called, what is it now, nursing home. Anyhow, I talked a lot to him, went and visited him a lot on weekends and stuff, and he said, "I tell you what, everybody oversizes their pipe." And I said, "Uh-oh, I don't need to talk to him no more." But he's right. I'd rather have a 3-inch pipe than 4 any day, because you fill the barrel of the pipe up and you keep it clean.
Yeah.
Your body oils and grease, sticks to the top of the pipe, and they stop up and stop down. But that's just come with experience.
Now, when you started, were there building codes in the city? There weren't any in the county.
They was in the city, but none in the county.
And then do you remember what year or when they started building codes out in the county?
Frank Moore was in there, but I don't remember when it was.
Yeah. Well, I remember growing up at Red Top, you used to come up and work on wells and pumps for my dad before there was any county water there.
Yeah, he had a time of water up there.
Yeah.
One time I had 2 men up there in that little well house, pump house, where you turn to go down to the beach.
Yeah.
And come a storm, blowed the door shut on them and locked them up in there. White just happened to come by and stop. They didn't have no way of calling or nothing, they were just in there.
Yeah, that's before cell phones, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Sure was.
Well, I don't remember the year, but Wayne Self was county commissioner when they put county water in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure
So I know that was a big change for all of us up there.
Well, I got a lot of work out of it,
So were you involved in any of the sewer expansion into Bartow County, or you remember what year they started that?
No, I don't. I used to do the county work. I kept the water system up for a long time and made taps. Somebody run over a water meter at 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to get out of bed and go fix it.
Yeah.
I've done that for a long time, but I got fired. Old Tatum fired me, and I was charging $50 a piece to make taps, and he said I was robbing the county. But that's the best thing ever happened to me when he fired me.
Yeah. Well, tell me about growing up in Bartow County. When you were a teenager growing up, of course, all the modes of travel were a lot different than they are now. And what was it like growing up out here in the country in the 50s?
Well, the part I missed most is when it snowed about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Some of the buddies of mine had called and said, "Snowing, let's go." And we'd have an old car and we'd play in that snow, rest of the night and most of the next day. And I turned 2 over in the snow. But we had a good time. We'd even go to town, spend around in the shopping centers or wherever we could find. And I miss that more than anything. You can't do those things no more. You know.
No.
It's just out of the question. But I loved growing up because we just had a lot of freedom we don't have now.
Well, if you could tell your grandchildren, or I think we've got a great granddaughter coming, Ruthie Sue, soon. So if you had to say something to them about what we need to hold on to from those days, what would you say?
We ain't got any of it left to hold on to.
There's got to be something.
Freedom in this country's gone.
Oh, but what was the things that you would like to tell them that this is where you get your joy and your peace? And as you said, a lot of things have changed in our government and our country. But what's the things that we can hold on to that you enjoyed growing up?
Well, you know, back then we spent the night with one another and visited one another, and of course you didn't call, you just happened up, and now then you got to call them beforehand so they can get everything ready for you. They don't want you to see how messy they live or whatever.
You just showed up back then.
Just showed up back then. Said, we're here.
I do remember that well. You'd be sitting in town and say, let's go to the house, and everybody'd go.
Another thing we did back then, if somebody died in the community, we set up with them. They brought them home and set up all night. Told tales, you know,
Yeah.
and really had fun. Next morning, we'd get up and go to the cemetery and dig the graves. Then we'd go to the funeral and couldn't stay awake. And then after it was over, we went and covered them up by hand. Then I got a backhoe, I started digging them, and for nothing, never did charge anybody anything. But, you know, I always had help. And it cost me a good bit of money, but I didn't mind. And the undertakers kept telling me I was going to get sued, so I finally just quit.
What's the biggest changes do you think you've seen in Sugar Valley area or Bartow County, or what's the things that good and bad?
Well, the bad is the growth, because we're losing a lot of. We're living in danger because out of every 10 people moved here, there'd probably be 3 bad ones, and. I'm serious. I feel that way. You just look what started happening now. I just don't like growth. You know, being country and living in the country. When we lived out here, there wasn't 5 houses between here and Atco.
Well, I think in probably the 50s census, there was about 25,000 people, and now it's about 100. So
Yeah, it's over 100.
started in the real growth started in the 80s. So. So what's the good part about all the years being in Bartow County?
Well, it was used to, when you went somewhere, you knew a lot of people. Now then, you very few people you know, and I know a lot of people being in business like I have and around people, but you just don't know the people like you used to. You don't know what kind of attitude they got. You're scared to joke with them much because you don't know how they'll take it.
And you wouldn't tell a joke, would you?
Sometimes.
Where's your favorite place to go? Where's your favorite place to eat?
Well, it's been Cody J's for years. It sure has.
I've seen you there once or twice.
Yeah.
CEO, you growing up as a child here, you probably did a lot of exploring over in the caves. Could you tell us about that?
Well, the Hot Saltpeter Cave is about a half a mile back over there, and we used to go over there, you know, and go in it, go through it. One time we didn't have no lights, so we took a rag and put in a Coca-Cola bottle of gas. Mm-hmm. Got about halfway through it, and that bottle got hot and busted. And you ain't never been in the dark till you're in there in the dark. And 2 or 3 younger boys started crying. Oh, Lord, what are we going to do?
So how long did it take you to get out?
I don't remember. Seemed like days. But you know, it's dangerous in there because it's cliff. You've been in it, I guess. It's something to see.
What else? Just kind of the landscape here changes. The old bridge at U Harley, things like that. Do you remember being a part of the landscape here over the years?
Yeah, well, it was, it's been tore down probably, time flies, maybe been 10 years and rebuilt the Hardin Bridge.
Yeah.
And it was really, really getting dangerous.
That was the old metal bridge.
Yeah.
Across the river.
It had a pillar in the middle. It had deteriorated.
Mm.
And when you crossed it, you had to get in low gear to come up the other side. It'd swag so bad. But we used to tell that about it, but it was dangerous.
Well, let's talk about your property here. You have I guess something that you did a few years ago. You called the cabin. So tell me about when you started that and what all the activities have been. And
We built the cabin somewhere in probably 75, and it's grown a couple of times
yeah,
to a larger size. I bought some more land and of course I had to pay pretty dear for it, but we've you know, we just always wanted everything to join me, and that's not possible because every time I buy something, something else joins it.
Now, did you started out doing barbecues, or you didn't, when you started it, did you start renting it out to people or let people use it?
No, we wasn't gonna never let nobody use it. It was just gonna be a family thing. But we had a barbecue over in the back pasture for years, 4th of July, and then we moved it up here.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have, I don't know, 200 or 300 people on the 4th, Brunswick stew, and it was good, and everybody liked it, and we had a lot of people that come, different people every year.
Yeah.
And then I started 37 years ago having breakfast first Sunday in every month, and I've missed one.
Wow. In 37 years.
Yeah, and that is beginning about October of this year.
Now, you've had some pretty good dignitaries at that breakfast.
Had the last 3 governors there, I know, and Johnny Isaacson was one of my favorites. We've had quite a few, in fact. I can't call all of them.
Was that an idea of just getting those people here in the Bartow County and giving the people in Bartow County a chance to meet them and speak to them in a more personal
Yeah.
way?
You know, we got people coming from Paulding County, Dallas, quite a few coming from Rome,
Yeah.
and various other places they've been, you know, from. We had one Sunday we had about 85 here a while back.
And that's the first Sunday
Every month.
in every month?
Yeah.
Starts at what, 7, 8?
Well, we get started cooking about 6, and people comes in, we eat sharp at 8. Just always made it a point to eat at 8 o'clock regardless.
If you want to eat, you better be there.
Better be there, yeah. And we're fortunate enough we've never run out of food. And it's a guessing game, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, what we have left over we give to somebody uptown, some of them people that's, I don't know, got kids or something.
Well, I know now there's just multiple uses for the cabin.
Yeah,
Have you ever had any weddings there?
quite a few.
Have you?
Yeah. We had one John Deere wedding. They wanted John Deere tractors, and I don't know whether it turned out to be a Deere John or not. But we've had quite a few.
What's the oddest thing that's ever happened in one of the breakfasts or anything in the cabin?
I really can't tell you. I know some, but I can't.
You know some, but just can't tell them. Huh?
Can't tell them. I'm trying to think of something.
Well, let's talk about your family again for a minute. You told me about Carla and Mike, your 2 children. Of course, they're grown now and help you in the business. Tell me about your grandkids. How many have you got?
I got 3. Got Katie, and then Jacob, who's in Tennessee, Ross, who's here. And so far, they've been good. I don't know whether Michael told me he needed to be scared of me or him. Ross is a pretty good boy, though.
Yeah, well, good. I know you're proud of all of them, and now you're fixing to be a great grandfather.
Yep.
Ruthie Sue's going to be here. Katie's daughter will be here when?
Next month, within a month.
Just a few weeks now.
Supposed to be in him.
Now, are you going to be babysitting then?
Probably, yeah, I probably never. You know, it's amazing. It's one of the things I hate about raising my family and being married. I didn't give them enough attention. All I wanted to do is I had a goal, you know, and it was working, and if I had to do over, I spent more time with them.
Well, would you tell that to your grandchildren now, that when they get a family, make sure they spend time with them?
And Michael's doing a good job, sure is. Carla's done a good job, sure is.
Well, there's nothing like being blessed for the Lord with children and grandchildren, is there?
That's right, that's right. Raising them right now is hard to do, but it can be done. The thing about it is just the company you keep.
Well, besides Doris and, of course, your two children, Carla and Michael, what do you think someone in the community that give you the most help in your life or business, or who was the most influential person here for you?
I really can't think. They was, you know, most everybody, because I started out young, was good to me. I had some people down around Stallsburg, and you Harley'd call me wanting something done. There's you, Herschel Tidwell's son. He delivered ice down there, and they said, "Well, come on, you're right if you're his son," you know, and that kind of thing helped me a lot. And
well, you just said something. A good name. Your father had a good name that helped you, and I know that's what you wish for your children and your grandchildren.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
like from walking his footsteps, because he was a good Christian man.
Yep. Well, we appreciate your time today, and would anything you'd like to say to tell folks that might be listening and want to know something about either the area we live in or about being raised in this area?
Well, it's been good to me overall. I had the best wife anybody could have, and she was a giving person, and if we done something for somebody that was old and she didn't want to send them a bill, and they'd call, and well, I just hadn't got around to it. If you don't get one, don't worry about it. And we both give away a lot, but she was very giving and was loved by everybody. And especially me. I couldn't look the world over and found a better one.
I agree with that. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your time, your experience growing up here in Bartow County, and this is just a great place to grow up and raise your family. And we thank you for the interview today.